Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 32nd ever Highlight Haven interview. My name is Matthew Heiserman, and today we are joined by Aaron Schatz of FTN Fantasy. Aaron, it's great to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Of course, really appreciate you coming on. Let's get right into it. I just want to start by asking when you first knew that you wanted to work in the sports industry.
Well, I think when I was younger, I always wanted to work in the sports industry, but I didn't really know how to make it happen. And then I ended up going into the radio industry, and I thought I might end up on sports talk radio, but that didn't work out. So when I started messing around with football statistics, I had another job. This was sort of a side project, but it kind of very quickly became what I did. I lost my other job, and this became my living. So I've been doing this full time now for over 20 years.
Yeah, now, as I mentioned during the intro, you officially joined FTN Fantasy on August 29th, 2023, as the full-time Chief Analytics Officer. What went into that decision?
Well, I had a couple of places, people know I ran a site called Football Outsiders and I
Yeah.
sold it. And then the people that I sold it to somebody else, and those people messed it up. So I needed a new place to lay my hat. And I considered a few different things, but FTN really gave me the best combination of freedom to do my thing with a company that I felt was growing and developing. And so that made a good combination. And that's why I decided to go with FTN.
Now, is there a reason that you decided to sell Football Outsiders? Like, were you not really liking the site as much anymore before you
I
sold it?
didn't like doing the businessy stuff.
Yeah.
I felt like Football Outsiders was at a point where if it was going to expand and make more money, I
Mhm.
thought there was a possibility we could do that. But if it was going to do that, it needed people that understood business better than me to do the business stuff I didn't want to do. I just wanted to write about football and do stats. So that's why I sold it so that somebody else could handle the business stuff and I could just do stats and writing.
Yeah, now, of course, you are the creator of DVOA, which stands for Defense Adjusted Value Over Average. Can you explain how this statistic works and what the process was like creating it?
It starts with the idea of giving a success value to every play based on the down and distance, because 5 yards on 3rd and 1 is very different than 5 yards on 3rd and 10. Then we compare that success value to a league average baseline, which is adjusted for situation and opponent. It started with some ideas from the book, The Hidden Game of Football. That's where the success rate and success points idea comes from. So I actually made a database of every play in the 2002 season. That's how I started. And I added together success points for players, but it came out with some weird results. And I realized that was because there are some players who would get the ball in positions where they were likely to have success,
Yeah.
like Mike Allstott, for example, right? Would always get the ball on the goal line. So,
Yes.
of course, you're going to have a lot of success on the goal line. You're already on the goal line.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, I need to compare plays to the same type of play. And then I ended up with Priest Holmes as my top running back, which made a lot more sense. And I kind of just took it from there.
Mhm. Yeah, now obviously you are the host of the Shots and Tenier NFL podcast run by FTN Fantasy. How would you describe the relationship you've been able to build with Mike Tenier over the years?
Oh, it's been awesome. I mean, he was writing when he was still a teacher, a math teacher. He was writing for some places where they sort of ran his stuff without attribution online. It was really weird. And then when Football Outsiders came around, it was really a place that really matched the kind of writing he wanted to do. So, I mean, we've known each other again for over 20 years. Um, we have a great relationship, uh, sort of know each other well, poke each other a little bit about our teams, right? He's an Eagles fan.
Mhm.
I'm a Patriots fan. Obviously, they've met in the Super Bowl a couple of
Mhm.
times. Um, it's been tough because he's sailed some tough waters of the business, right? Like the messenger. I considered going to the messenger also, and he went and they died within months. And that was terrible. And the troubles they have with the New York Times, he's kind of not he hasn't quite gotten the best deal.
Mhm.
with some of these things. But now he's got his own site, the Two Deep Zone, which is his own Substack at miketanier.substack.com, and it's doing really well. So we feel like, full speed ahead for both of us.
Yeah, now you are one of the voters for both the All Pro and MVP. Just a few weeks ago, you published an article on FTN Fantasy sharing your 2024 All Pro ballot. And there were two things on there that really caught my attention. One of which was the fact that you picked Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen. Can you explain why you chose Lamar?
Yeah, a lot of stats were very similar for both quarterbacks this year, but my stats
Mhm,
were not. I had Lamar Jackson way ahead of Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson had a historically efficient and valuable season.
mhm,
And so in the end, if my stuff had Jackson ahead by a little bit, but other stuff had Allen ahead by a little bit, I don't believe that my stats are perfect. And there are other stats out there that do good measurement, and I'd reconsider things. But basically everything else had them neck and neck, and I had Jackson way ahead. So I just went with my stats and went with Jackson.
Yeah, now I do agree that Lamar was better than Allen during the regular season. However, I don't agree that Derrick Henry was better than Saquon Barkley, which was another thing that you stated in your article. Obviously, Barkley finished the year with 2,283 scrimmage yards to go along with 15 touchdowns, a 13-3 record. Can you elaborate on why you chose Henry over Barkley?
The Eagles played a very easy schedule. If I remember correctly, Henry had 3 games
Hmm.
against bottom 10 run defenses.
Hmm.
Barkley had 9 games against bottom 10 run defenses. The Eagles just played a very easy schedule. So, efficiency wise, I had Henry as more efficient, even though Barkley had more yards. And then when you added the opponent adjustment on top of that, I just think Henry had the better season. It's not to take anything away. I mean, Barkley and Jameer Gibbs both had awesome seasons too. But
Hmm.
yeah, Barkley played an easy schedule, and I do think you have to account for that when you figure out whether he was better than Henry this year.
Yeah, now obviously this year's Super Bowl will be taking place in New Orleans on February 9th, where the Kansas City Chiefs will face your Philadelphia Eagles in
No,
a
no,
rematch from
Mike's
two.
Philadelphia Eagles. I'm still a Patriots fan.
Oh, my apologies. Mike's Philadelphia Eagles. So his team will be facing the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch from 2 years ago. What's your prediction for that matchup?
you know, I think it's pretty close. I I believe in the idea of the Chiefs raising their game in the playoffs, but I don't think I believe in it as much as other people do. Like, I think that it's a factor, but I don't think it's the factor. I don't think they're unbeatable. I don't think they're inevitable. But I'm worried about the injuries that, as we are recording this, we do not know the
Mhm.
status of Landon Dickerson and Cam
Yeah.
Jurgens.
Mhm.
And if those guys are hurt, or even if just one of them is hurt, and Chris Jones is going up against a backup lineman, especially that Hurts struggles under pressure, I just don't. That's just too much of an advantage for the Chiefs. So I would take the Chiefs. I would take the Chiefs in this game.
Yeah, now during the regular season, Kansas City was 11-0 in one possession games. I mean, is that something that you're looking at in terms of if this game is close? Kansas City has proven that they are able to win when it matters most. Like how much how much does that mean to you?
I don't think. Here's the thing. I don't think the Eagles have proven that they can't win when it matters most, right? Like, the statement that the Chiefs know how to win is a
Mhm.
suggestion that the Eagles don't
Yeah.
know how to
Mhm.
win, because if they
Yeah.
both know how to win, then it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And I think that that is not giving enough credit to the Philadelphia Eagles. And some of the wins that the Chiefs had were nonsense. Like, they did nothing to make Aiden O'Connell fumble a snap in field goal range,
Mhm.
right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that was a little ridiculous. So, I mean, I believe in the Chiefs' ability to play well in close games.
Mhm.
Um, I just don't know if it's really better than the Eagles' ability to play well in close games.
Yeah, now this season the Eagles were the most blitz offense in the NFL according to FTN data charting, and they ranked 14th in DVOA against the blitz. I know this was a stat that you brought up in a recent tweet of yours, can we expect Steve Spagnuolo to send the blitz an extra amount on Sunday?
Yes. Now, it turns out if you only look at Hurts, he's
Mhm.
not the most blitz quarterback. He's like fourth or fifth
Uh-huh.
because what happened was when Kenny Pickett came in,
Yeah.
the other teams were like, whoa, send everybody. So Spagnuolo is I mean, it's interesting because I think the premier matchup of the Super Bowl is between coaches. It's Vic Fangio and Steve Spagnuolo who can out scheme the other offense. And what's interesting about that is Fangio doesn't blitz very often, and Spagnuolo blitzes a ton, and his blitzes are very well designed. And so I would expect them to come after Hurts. Absolutely. They are going to blitz Hurts. And I would expect Philadelphia to try to get to Mahomes with just four guys and not blitz him very much at all.
Yeah, now using DVOA, is there an under the radar player for either the Eagles or the Chiefs that you think could end up being the deciding factor in this game?
Um, well, here it's interesting
Mhm.
because I mean, one thing I've noticed is both teams actually, despite having good cornerbacks, struggled against number one receivers. So we could see good games from AJ Brown and Xavier Worthy. The other thing I would wonder about is Noah Gray. With all the 12 personnel and Kelsey having such an off year, Noah Gray was very efficient this year.
Mhm.
And uh, if Kelsey is in there and if Kelsey's being covered by Zach Bond or CJ Gardner Johnson, that may put Oren Burks on Gray. And Oren Burks can be a bit of a liability in the passing game. So Noah Gray may be somebody to watch.
Yeah, now you mentioned AJ Brown. Obviously, AJ Brown did amazing last week against the Commanders. He had 6 receptions, 96 receiving yards, and a touchdown. However, the 3 weeks before that against the Rams, the Packers, and the Cowboys, he combined for just 20 receiving yards per game. Does that concern you at all?
No, no, I think that's a small sample that he had a
Mhm.
couple of bad games there. He was back last week, and I think he's the best receiver in this game out of both teams.
Yeah, now obviously a massive topic around the NFL recently has been whether or not the refs favor the Chiefs against the Buffalo Bills this past Sunday with just over 13 minutes left in the fourth quarter. A lot of people were arguing that Josh Allen did get that first down on the tush push that the Bills had. However, the refs called it a turnover on downs, giving Kansas City the ball down by one. Obviously, the refs don't rig the games towards the Chiefs, but have you seen any you know, favoritism that's not intended, but you've just seen favoritism in terms of, you know, maybe it's accidental, but the refs are still making some calls go the Chiefs' way.
Oh, sure, because we know in all sports that home teams get the benefit of officiating a little bit over
Mhm.
road teams,
Yeah.
and that superstars get a little bit more benefit of the doubt. So the Chiefs are always playing at home in the playoffs, and they have the biggest superstar in the game. So they're going to get a little benefit of the doubt. I don't think that that's rigging the game for the Chiefs. I could not tell if Allen was across the line. I have no
Yeah.
idea. No idea if he was across the line on that play. But those two things are true that like home teams. Now, okay, so let's get to the Super Bowl. There is no home team. So theoretically, then there shouldn't be that sort of subconscious favoring of the home team. We'll see. We'll see what happens. My nightmare is that this game gets decided by some sort of officiating decision in favor of the Chiefs. And we have to argue about this for the entire offseason. What I'd rather have is to have the whole game decided by an officiating thing in favor of the Eagles just to prove all those people wrong. That would be hilarious.
Obviously there was a big controversy 2 years ago with the James Bradbury
Yeah.
hold or not hold on
It
Juju
was,
Smith
it was,
Schuster.
it was, it would, they could have gone without calling it. It was not, it was a little ticky tack, but it was by the rules. It was a
Yeah,
DPI.
and
So,
then Bradbury after the game also admitted that,
yeah.
he did hold Smith-Schuster on that play, obviously. And in a recent article with ESPN Plus, you said that the Los Angeles Rams had the best rookie class of any team this past season. Why'd you pick the Rams over a team like the Commanders with Jaden and Sanistril or the Eagles with Quinyon Mitchell or Cooper DeJean?
The Rams and the Commanders had the most value by
Mhm.
the stat that I was using. And I just felt the Rams class was wider. right? The
Mhm.
Commanders class was so much more about just one guy in
Yeah.
Daniels. I mean, not it wasn't just one guy. They had
Mhm.
like Mike Sainristil, and a couple of others. But the Rams class was really wide. It was just a lot of guys. It showed good drafting, whereas the Commanders class was more like, wow, Jaden Daniels, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I went with the Rams number.
Yeah, now you mentioned the statistic that you were using. Was that DVOA or were you
I
using
used
something else?
total points from my friends
Mhm.
at Sports Info Solutions because it was a way to put all these players at different positions on the same scale. And then I adjusted teams up and down a little bit based on DVOA and based on ESPN, things like pass block win rate and such, and
Mhm.
to determine who were the best rookies.
Yeah, now on January 21st, the Chicago Bears hired Ben Johnson as their new head coach. Johnson obviously spent 3 seasons as the Lions offensive coordinator from 2022 to 2024. Despite Caleb Williams' somewhat underwhelming rookie campaign, do you expect things to turn around with Ben Johnson next season?
I don't know. And here's why. He's a really great designer of plays. I don't know if he can fix the clock in Caleb Williams' head. Maybe he can design plays so that Williams gets the ball out so fast that it doesn't matter. But honestly, the taking the sacks and holding on to the ball too long thing is something Caleb has to kind of fix himself.
Yeah, now obviously, people are saying Caleb did have a somewhat disappointing rookie campaign from an analytical perspective and just a general eye test. Is that something that you saw, or how much of it was people comparing him to Jaden Daniels in Jaden's historic rookie campaign?
Yeah, he
And I
had a
mean,
pretty typical rookie
mhm,
campaign. It
yeah.
was not good. It wasn't really bad. It was a
Mhm.
pretty typical rookie campaign. He showed the flashes of what people think he can become. But next to Daniels, it looked awful.
And that's kind of the
Because
same
people
thing.
were
Yeah.
incorrectly predicting that the Bears were going to the playoffs before
Yeah.
the season. And
Mhm, mhm,
you have to expect rookie quarterbacks to be bad. Sometimes they're not, like Daniels or Bo Nix, but you have
mhm.
to expect them to be bad. And you can't expect teams to take a big jump when they add a rookie quarterback, even though some of them do.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kinda like Bryce Young last year, and I'm not gonna say that Bryce Young was good or even average last year. He was
No,
not.
he was horrible.
Yeah, he was horrible, but I'm just saying, like, in comparison to CJ Stroud, obviously, I think he looks even worse than he would have been, just if you look at it from a baseline perspective. And on Tuesday, it was announced that former Dallas Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy will not be coaching for any team in 2025. What does that decision tell you about the Saints' search for a head coach right now?
And no one wants to work for them
Mm,
because
mm,
they're going to be in horrifying cap purgatory. They have pushed cap money and pushed cap money and pushed cap money for so many years. There is just so much dead money that team has. And now their players that are good have gotten old. It
mm,
is not a very, I realize there's only 32 jobs in the NFL, but that is not an attractive one.
mhm. Now, is there someone that you think is the favorite for that job right now? Of course, that
It
decision.
sounds like Kellen Moore.
Mhm,
It sounds
yeah.
like Kellen Moore is after the Super Bowl, but I mean, it's the kind of thing where I might stick with my current job and try to find another. I mean, you never know. Look, Bobby Slowick was a head coaching candidate a year ago, and now he's not even an offensive coordinator because he had a terrible year and got fired. So there's a legitimate argument that you
Mhm.
got to strike while the iron is hot. If you're a head coach candidate, take a head coaching job. But man, that Saints job is going to be rough.
Yeah, now I'm a big, Commanders fan, and, you look at Cliff Kingsbury, obviously, offensive coordinator, he would have had the shot probably to be the head coach of the Saints, more money, but I think when you look at it as no one wants that job, that kind of explains part of why you'd rather stay on the winning team, obviously, even if you don't have as big of a role. Um, Now I do have one final question to ask. If there was one piece of advice you could give to an aspiring sports broadcaster and journalist like me, what would it be?
Well, it's a difficult it's a difficult media environment right now. It is a
Mhm,
difficult um, industry. I mean, the best advice is to do something that makes you unique, right? Do
mhm,
something that sets you apart. Just keep working at it, but Also figure out your own angle that's different from, because if you're competing to do the same thing as everybody else, it's hard to get in. People used to ask me about how I got started, and I was like, well, the way I got started was that I was the first person to do this.
Mhm.
Whereas if I had tried to do Bill Simmons's shtick, I would not have gotten very far, because they didn't need someone else to do Bill Simmons's shtick, because Bill Simmons was already doing it, right? So the best advice I can give is to find a unique way and a unique perspective that makes you different from everything else that's out there.
Yeah, I really, really do appreciate that advice, and I can't thank you enough for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say to the people watching before we wrap things up?
Just hope folks will check out FTN Fantasy. There's all kinds of really good subscriber content there on a lot of sports. I only do the NFL, but FTN Fantasy is filled with content on a lot of sports, so people should check it out.
Yeah, make sure you also follow Aaron Schatz on Twitter at a Shots NFL.
Or
What,
Blue Sky, I should mention, right? I'm on Blue Sky a lot
yep,
now. It's just aaronshots.com.
AaronShots.com on Blue Sky. Again, big thanks to Aaron Shots for being the 32nd ever Highlight Haven interview guest. And as always, we will see you next time.